Well, I hope you're ready for some unindoctrination because ready or not, here it comes. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower. Joining me tonight from Taboo Conspiracy is Ben. We're looking forward to a great show. Ben has got one of the leading channels within the Flat Earth.
Leading? I don't know about that, but
And we heard earlier today from Billy Zig. I didn't mean to put people back to back like that on the same subject, but it is a big subject. You know, it's a subject that I have recently embraced. And it's good to have you here, Ben. And, you know, the video, folks, that I put up about what's that video called?
It's my Flat Earth journey, or our Flat Earth journey.
Our Flat Earth journey. This is the guy that did it, and that is an amazing video. And as always, I'm coming in the spirit of 1776 with a rebel yell. Dave Weiss did that background. So thanks to Dave. He said he got tired of looking at the green screen with the flags over it. So he put that
David Weiss is a great guy.
He really is. And there's one thing that I found, that spiky hair doesn't key out very well on a green screen. So you just have to deal with it. You just have
At least you have hair.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's you know, it's turned colors on me, but as long as it doesn't turn loose, I'll be okay. So Ben, tell us, you know, your channel is called Taboo Conspiracy on YouTube, right? Yeah,
well, it's Taboo Conspiracy 2. The first one was deleted by
Is there a story behind that?
Well, you know, that was I don't know how much I can talk about without causing you any troubles, but it was that shooting over there in New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
I posted some of the walking zombie where the person played dead. One of the Muslims played dead, and then all of a sudden the camera panned around again, and the Muslim stood up and walked away. And they caught that on camera. I posted that one. That one shut me down immediately. No warning. No strikes, just shut me down.
No kidding. Our friend Vinny Eastwood also got some trouble over that. He's in New Zealand and was doing some great reporting on it, but not everybody liked it.
What's not to like? I mean, goodness sakes, the Muslim rose from the dead after he was dead from a shooting. So, I mean, that should be headline news.
It should be. It should be. So does Taboo Conspiracy cover other conspiracies, or are you mainly just focused on the flat Earth genre? Well,
initially when I came up with the idea, I was covering lots of different conspiracies, and I got flagged for a lot of it. I covered a lot of the dinosaurs. I've covered some of that. I've covered some of the nuclear hoax, but for some reason, flat Earth is what hit me the most. Is what stuck with me the most. Is what's most important to me to try to get other people to open their eyes. And if they can open their eyes to flat Earth, it kind of opens their eyes to everything else. 9/11 was one of those big ones for people to open their eyes to. And when they can see that our government is not our friend, they're not there for us. They're actually a bunch of murderers up there. And once people realize that, that's a huge stepping stone. Once they realize the moon landings were fake, that's a huge stepping stone. The next one for me is flat Earth. If you can realize that they faked, I mean, they had to lie to us. Think about all the lies through all of our generations of lies and indoctrination since we were children to believe in that spinning globe, and to absolutely hate anyone who says that the Earth is flat. I mean, someone says the Earth is flat, your knee-jerk response is to call them an idiot. You want to? I mean, that's what my knee-jerk response was. But
it is a very powerful reaction. It's not just like oh, that's weird. It is really an outright attack. But you said something that really resonated with me. People within our community, people within the greater, conspiratorium, or whatever you want to call it, truthers, quote unquote, you would think that once they saw that the United States government blatantly lied to them about 9/11, you would think that it wouldn't be that hard for them, but then to begin to question NASA, then to begin to question the shape of the Earth. But for some reason, you know, they can make that connection on 9/11. They can make that connection with the Fed. But when it comes to NASA most of the time and the flat Earth almost all of the time, why can't people apply the same logic, the same open-minded, or why can't they even subject to investigation the subject of the shape of the Earth that they can and do very well on 9/11 and even NASA sometimes?
Well, I think the flat Earth includes that idea that if you are a flat earther, you're an idiot. And nobody wants to go down that road and feel like they're being stupid by researching the topic. For me, the David McGowan's Wagging the Moondoggie series, I don't know if you've read that one.
I have not.
I highly recommend it. You can find, I'll send you a link or something online, but it's Dave McGowan's Wagging the Moondoggies. If you Google it, you'll find it. I went through that series, and that was one I opened my eyes really that they faked that moon landing. I mean, when they showed the pictures of the lunar lander, that was enough for me. It was like, there is no way that that went to space. Absolutely no way. I don't care what what kind of propagandist comes out and says that is what's inside that's important. That is a piece of garbage. There is, and the fact that they never actually flew that in front of a camera. I mean, the thing looks like garbage. They never flew it in front of a camera. They never and they never tested it whatsoever. They never even practiced any of the maneuvers that an astronaut would engage in, such as dropping at 4,000 miles per hour, ascending back up to rendezvous with and dock with the command module. They didn't practice. They didn't do anything like that. And I mean, that was it for me. Was the lunar rover, and I was a NASA skeptic ever since then. I went on a lot of the forums. I was really into putting out the proofs of the moon landing hoax, and so I got pretty good at that on a lot of the online forums. And I started getting kicked off on all these forums as well. But it was at that time, it was a friend of mine named a fellow moon landing skeptic, Jibby Jedi is his name. He said, "Hey, you need to look into this flat Earth thing." And at that time, I think there was maybe there's Mark Sargent and there was Eric Dubay, and I watched a few of their videos, and oh my heavens, that was that first initial response of like, well, this isn't just something to laugh at. There's actually some substance here. And then you start doing the research, you start looking into it more. And I myself bought that P900 camera. I had my wife stand across the opposite shore of a lake. I got my camera down to just 3 feet, and I filmed her take a mirror and place it right into the water as she was reflecting the sunlight. And that was 6.4 miles away. And it was at that time where I was like, wow.
So according to the curvature formula and the Ball Earth teachings, there's no way that could have happened, correct?
She should have been hidden behind 14 feet, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
6.4 miles away, I had my camera down to just 3 feet. I filmed her put the mirror in the water, talking to her on the cell phone the whole time. And that one opened my eyes. I showed it to actually a friend of mine who's probably the smartest person I know. He's an inventor, and he's invented a lot of amazing things. And I showed it to him. It's like, this has just stumped me. What I found here. And he's like, well, what you need to do is get a powerful light and take that to an opposite shore and see if you can see that light. And so, and funny thing is, I followed his advice. I bought one of those a big powerful light that day. Went out to Utah Lake near Provo, Utah. And this time I had my wife hold the light. She was 7.5 miles away, and she brought the light all the way down to the shore. And I filmed her actually put that in right up to the water. And that was when I had to take that step of the evidence says there's something going on here, that the curvature formula isn't right, that the Earth is not curving away from us at 8 inches per mile squared. That is not happening. And that was the key for me. And that's when I started calling myself a flat earther. And I had to swallow that heavy pill, because once you call yourself a flat earther, oh my heavens, family members hate you. Friends want nothing to do with you. I mean, of course, I've met thousands and thousands of friends since then. But it was at that moment. I mean, I had to evaluate my career choice and everything else as well. It was a very difficult decision for me. I had to reevaluate whether I wanted to actually practice law anymore, things like that, that just, I had to change my life around.
Now, you said a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. Number one, you said that your wife was helping you. Is your wife sort of the same mind as you are?
she's definitely a flat earther. All my children are as well. It's great, actually.
That's amazing. So you got a great wife. It's so nice to have a great partner.
Yeah, I can't tell you that's been invaluable for me because she's always supported me, but she's more at the point of like, come on, it's flat. I mean, how many more videos do you make, Ben?
But Ben, you're out there not convinced yet, doing multiple tests, and you weren't even convinced yet.
No, I wasn't. I mean,
and my initial response got to either be an engineer or a lawyer, and you're a lawyer.
Yeah, it was, you know, things like that are career suicide, but anyway, I thought maybe flat earthers were faking it. So I had to do it. I had to perform the experiments. And in all honesty, at that time, people weren't doing it very well, in my opinion. They weren't calculating their camera height. They weren't, you know, making sure that all the, you know, we're getting pictures of how high your camera is, that you're either talking in real time with the person on the other side. And since then, it's gotten better and better. I mean, I have, you know, quite a few laser tests. I have light tests. I have, I've done myself many, many tests. I don't even put all of them all out there. There's quite a few of them, but I try to select the ones that are are best presentable, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of people in the chat room are talking about that video, and that video is the video that's up on my channel. It was not but a few days ago that I mirrored it. It's called Our Flat Earth Journey, I believe, and I think I put on there, are you brave enough to believe the truth or consider the truth or something like that? Lots of praise in the chat room, Ben.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Very, very, very mind-opening. And here's something that you hear a lot, and I wanted you to respond to that, if you would, out of the chat room.
Yeah, sure.
Brandon says that he used to think that flat Earth was a CIA psyop.
I thought the same. I thought the same until I realized, hey, wait a second, the CIA can't program my camera to look over the curvature.
They really can't, can they?
But you know, it took me months of arguing, months of going back and forth. I read several books and stuff too on the subject. You know, I read Zetetic Astronomy. I read Gleason's book as well. That's a good one. And the King's Dethroned. That's one of my favorite. I read these books. I did the experiments. I went out there and I conducted this for months because I also thought the same thing. But come on, I mean, the curvature formula is set. I mean, I actually hired somebody to do this on AutoCAD to make sure that it was accurate, because I at first thought maybe there was a possibility that the curvature formula was wrong.
And AutoCAD is the automated drafting program, right?
Right, and that's essentially infallible when it comes to making a sphere, you know, doing the calculations, those things. And it was very accurate over all observable distances. And it was at that point, it was like, come on, you know, either the Earth is so big, like we're talking the size of the alleged sun, or the Earth is flat. And so I call myself a flat earther because that's where the evidence points. If it turns out to be something else, hey, I'll go that direction too. And I don't care. I'm not here for popularity. I'm not here to make money or anything like that. I'm only trying to share the truth as I can best see it and best contest it. Absolutely.
And, you know, that's where I am too. You know, kind of the way, you know, I got to this place is, you know, I've been a person that says that, you know, I'm going to unindoctrinate myself and I'm going to follow the truth wherever it goes. And I started just thinking, I see so many people. I would run across Dave's videos. I'd run across Owen Benjamin's videos. I do some stand-up. So I kind of, you know, I ended up talking with Sam Tripoli and it's in my mind. I'm thinking about it. And then I started thinking about NASA. And I had gone to NASA. I'm from Florida. I'd gone over to the launch site, and all these things are just circling around in my head. And I used to do a Sunday show with this one fellow, and one day the subject of NASA came up, and the subject of the moon landing. And I started doing some studying, and found out that it's physically impossible because the inside dimensions of that lunar module for two astronauts in their full gear to be in it at the same time. I think, what, did one guy hold his breath in a vacuum while the other guy went out the door?
Yeah, and they lived there for 3 days.
And they lived there for 3 days. There's no way that the lunar rover would have fit on the limb. And I did a lot of study on NASA, and I just realized there's no way that we went to the moon. That's a lie. It's an absolute positive lie.
Right.
And then I'm doing comedy, and I get locked in a room, a green room at the comedy club with Eddie Bravo for 3 hours. And we talk flat earth, flat earth, flat earth. And the first question that Eddie asked me was, do you believe we went to the moon? I'm like, no. He goes, okay, then I'll talk to you about flat earth, because he says that if someone believes that we went to the moon, he won't even talk flat earth with them, because you can't, unless you've actually wrapped your mind around the lunar landing, then you can't get to flat earth.
Well, I agree with Eddie Bravo 100% there.
You just can't.
And that's why I do concentrate on NASA fakery as well. I put out quite a few NASA moon landings videos as well. But I mean, for me, the biggest proofs of the fake moon landings, just look at the lunar rover. I mean, the lunar lander. It's fake. It's a hoax. I mean, there's no way that thing flew. They never tested it, never flew it, never actually did that on a camera, never practiced with it. None of those things. And also one of the other things I really like is that you can see the screen, the way they call it, the projection screen or whatever, throughout all of the moon landings. You can see the line where the differentiates between the background and the foreground. And you can see that line everywhere. Again, come on.
Yeah, I did a whole series on that, folks. It's on the playlist, on my science playlist. There's 4 or 5 videos about NASA, and there's just no way that we went to the moon. And when I realized, okay, we didn't go to the moon, and then I started studying about, the first thing that hit me, Ben, was the idea, I look at the stars and they never change. You have the star path from the North Pole, and it's a perfect circle. And I'm like, okay. So I start studying. I said, the only way that we can be heliocentric, the only way that we could be going around the sun, is if we're doing it at the exact same speed, because on a ball that's covered with 75% water, or even on something flat that's covered with 75% water, you can't speed up and slow down, or it's going to slosh and you're going to wreck everything. And then NASA comes out not 2 weeks after I was at this place of thought, saying that we've just discovered that the Earth speeds up and slows down while it's going around the sun. And I just and that was it. I'm like, there's no way. I know that we didn't go to the moon. I know that the universe is geocentric. And I started studying, I go, who were the smartest humans is where my mind went. Who were the smartest humans? So I started thinking, the Atlanteans, we don't really have much from them, but maybe the next step is the Greeks. So I started studying the Greeks, and the early Greeks would say over and over and over, trust yourself, trust your own observations. Don't rely on data and formulae from other people. And I just, okay, it's not, I know it's geocentric. I know that the sun is not, we're not going around the sun's going around us. And what is the shape of it? I look, I observe, I buy an expensive camera. I look, bring the ship goes over the curve. Oh, zoom in, ship comes back. Ship goes over the curve, zoom in, ship comes back. You did that a long time with the P-1000. So all of my observations tell me it is a stationary flat plane. Yeah. Now, like you said earlier, maybe it turns out that it's so huge that it's physically impossible for us to see the curvature of it. But the one thing we know for sure is our observations tell us it's flat. And we know for sure that what they tell us isn't true. So right now, until I get contradictory data that I can test and prove and retest and reprove, then I am a definite geocentric flat earth believer.
Yeah, excellent. And I apologize. I do have my family here in the house as well, so you'll hear screaming now and then. No, I followed a similar path.
Let me out. We'll be okay.
I followed a similar path where you start going, well, maybe it's just a geocentric Earth. Yeah, sure. And anyone who believes it's a geocentric Earth but still believes it's a globe, hey, I'm still your friend. I admire your skepticism. I admire the fact that you're willing to question your indoctrination. I admire that. I'm just taking another step because I went out there with a camera and started filming things that were impossible under the globe. But it's not just what I filmed with the camera. I mean, you think about like with snipers, they don't adjust for it. Nobody adjusts for this imaginary curvature or the movement of the Earth.
And neither do Air Force navigators. I've had over 1,000 hours on a flight crew in C-130, and the navigator never adjusts for curvature, and they fly by the artificial horizon. It's flat.
I don't know if you saw that video, but from the F-16 pilot that I did, but
I did not.
But is a former F-16 pilot, and he says the same thing.
And I had in the back seat of an F-15 at 40,000 feet, and it's flat. It's flat. We have a skeptic, I think, or someone that's at least asking a question.
Hey, and I'm open to all questions, because I'll tell you, I had 1,000 questions when I was looking into this. So yeah, ask away.
How would you address Daba Cannabis? That tells us a little something. 420. Flat Earth was purposely put out there just to start conspiracy debates for thousands of years. Bruh. I added the bruh part, but how would you respond to that? That it was just put out there to create debates?
Just put out there to create debates?
Conspiracy debate.
Well, you know, I don't know. Is it possible that whoever the cabal put out some evidence about the flat Earth and got things moving? I don't know. All I know is that when I could get behind a camera and I can see much further than I'm supposed to under the globe, and that's mathematically certain. Anyone can do it. Anyone can test it. I've tested the horizon on many occasions. It does not match the globe. In many tests, it does not match. So are there other motives of why the flat Earth was released? I don't know. I wasn't a part of those conversations. All I can do is follow the truth to the best of my ability. And the truth right now says, and the evidence points that way, that the Earth is flat and station and motionless.
Absolutely. When do we have an idea, like, who was the first one to bring this into the public consciousness?
Well, you know, there's that debate between Eric Dubay and Mark Sargent. And there's one other person out there that
first.
Yeah, and they're all. I honestly hate that. I think that's silly, because you know, if you believe in God, God's the author of truth.
Absolutely.
I mean, kudos to anybody who's been out there first. It doesn't matter to me who was first. But to the people who really resonate, the people that I liked actually David Weiss. He put out his channel, and he put out a playlist, and I consumed that playlist. I was on his channel daily, re-watching those videos over and over again. So I really liked what David Weiss did. So for me, DITRH was really instrumental in me becoming a flat earther. So.
Absolutely. And I mean, if somebody asked me what is the best flat earth channel, I would have to point him to Dave's, because he does such good work, and it's actually quality work too. And, you know, I like it. And he just does a really, really good job on it. And it's very powerful. Billy Zig is in the chat room.
Hey, Billy.
He says, wouldn't it be more plausible that they tried to hide the flat earth from us than to release it? So that we would inevitably find that it was the truth. So yeah, that's I think an interesting way to look at it too.
Yeah, I mean, with the advancement of optics, I mean, we didn't have a P900 camera 10 years ago even, but now we have the ability where I can film it like I did with my wife. I filmed my wife at 6.4 miles away when my camera's only 3 feet high. I filmed it and I uploaded it to YouTube. I couldn't even make a video at that time, but I could do that. And my friend Jibby Jedi, he did some of the other things with it, and eventually I learned how to do it myself. But
there's a question I had. What did you just say? You said that you darn it! I had a good question and it slipped my mind.
That's all right.
But yeah, I think it's very, very powerful. And I'm reading Thomas Paine right now, Age of Reason, and
that's a good book.
Oh, it's amazing book. Amazing book.
A little anti-Christian, but it's all right.
Well, you know, that's kind of my thing, but we're not going to go there tonight. But he talked about, and he says in his words, and this is just to set up his point, that there's no way that language, because it's so changeable and mutable and so much intrigue and controversy and differences of interpretation, he says there's no way that language could contain the words of God or be the word of God. So he posits that creation itself is the word of God. And if you love the Bible, it does say that the heavens declare his glory and his majesty. And that's a great thought. If we understand that the word of God is his creation, then, you know, people say, what difference does it make if it's flat or round? If the word of God is creation, and it certainly does declare his handiwork, then whether it's round or flat, that becomes a very big question then, doesn't it?
Yes, flat Earth is so important spiritually.
Explain that, please.
For me. Because for me, I was a Christian before fully believing in the globe. So it's not like I believe in the flat Earth because I was a Christian. No, that didn't work out that way. I fully supported the idea that we could be on a globe, but I was a Christian, and I didn't subscribe to a literal understanding of the Bible. I subscribed to more of kind of allegorical understanding. So then you read Genesis 1 and things, and it's obviously, it's, if you take a literal meaning behind it, it's not a heliocentric chapter. Nothing in there fits within the heliocentric model. But to me, why would they lie? It becomes obvious is to control us spiritually. Maybe it's hiding other lands, things like that. I actually don't think that's important to them, but I do think that the evil powers, whether you want to call it a Satan or something else, that controls this cabal that they worship.
You know, that just hit me. Cabal, not flat, cabal.
That's good. That controls them, that he would want to hide God's creations. He would want people to not think about heaven above and hell below. And I shared a quote on that video. I don't know if you caught that, from the Luciferian publication back in the 1800s, and it said how the astronomy with a spherical ball and all that ended the debate of whether heaven is above us and below us. It ended those things, and that's why I believe they made this gargantuan lie as some sort of a mental control, spiritual control. And that's why I think God wants us to go out there and try to fight for truth as to the best of our ability.
And I think God, you know, there's it's not in the Bible, but it could be, especially if you believe in the Bible. You know, the old saying, God helps those that help themselves, and God gave you a brain for a reason. I think the divine wants us to think, wants us to reason. You know, Thomas Paine, Age of Reason, wants us, our reason is, I think, our highest sense of divinity. So you have to be able to explain and understand. I mean, I say that with spirituality tonight. We're not talking spirituality so much. I say that with history, and we're saying that with science. You have to be able to understand why you believe what you believe, in my opinion. Just because some guy in a white coat can give you all of the formulae and all of the documentation and explain all of what's happening and prove to you that it's a globe, you still walk outside and look around. What do you see? You're up in an airplane. What do you see? You go on a flat air balloon. What do you see? Stand there, close your eyes. Does it feel like you're spinning 666 miles an hour here, and then who knows how fast there, and then there's another one? Do you feel that? And why don't you trust yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the big problems with us nowadays, is that we always trust the scientist.
Yes.
We trust the expert, the medical expert. We trust all these fake people that are bought and paid for. And that's one thing I've learned in my profession and in my life. You can hire professions to say whatever you want them to say. You can hire a doctor to say whatever you want them to say. That's how the legal world works. If I want a scientist to say that brake was malfunctioned, I hire a scientist to say that brake malfunctioned. He'll say it. It doesn't mean that they're objective people that we should always just follow.
It's not in the Bible, Alan. I just said that.
If anything, I want people to just be skeptical, but not skeptical of just the flat Earth, but skeptical of the heliocentric model as well. I love healthy skepticism, but you should be willing to follow the truth no matter which direction it goes, even if it means you now think maybe start questioning your own sanity because you've just become a flat earther.
Absolutely. And this is a big statement, but I don't know if anybody would actually look at all of the facts objectively, empirically, in a scholarly fashion without cognitive dissonance and without having confirmation bias. I don't know how they could come up with any other answer than we know it ain't what they told us, and our observations say it's flat.
Oh, well, you know, like I tried telling people in my family, you know, a lot of my siblings, and some of them have become flat earthers, but some of them are absolutely hate me for it. But I mean, like my sister, she posted on Facebook or something. I don't know if you've ever seen it, the Felix Baumgartner jump, where they have a fisheye lens that shows the Earth. It's, you know, planet New Mexico. And she's like, look, you can see the globe from space here with Felix Baumgartner. And I tried to teach her about it, that's a fisheye lens, that she wouldn't have anything of it.
Now, Ben, isn't there another shot in that whole thing where it's from back further in the capsule?
Yeah, when the door opens.
It's super flat because it wasn't using the GoPro.
Exactly. I even tried to share that with her, but again, people they latch on to what they know, what they think they know, and won't let go. And unfortunately, the globe religion is the worst religion out there, because they absolutely do not want questioning. They want you to accept their priesthood from NASA. Ooh. No questions asked. It's all been settled. How many times have you heard that? And you think about it, real science would never say anything is settled. Never. Because it could always be something else that's been overlooked. And the fact that they don't even want that debate, come on. I mean, warning bells should be going off.
Yeah. And the one thing that I've learned, I've been in some sort of spiritual work for 40 years now this year. And one thing I found to be almost always true is that when you know and you're sure that everybody knows, that's the time you better take a step back and say, what am I missing? I mean, Thomas Jefferson said it so well. He said, whenever I find, or it was Jefferson or it was Twain, I can't remember. Whenever I find myself, it was Twain. Whenever I find myself in the large majority, I stop and recheck my facts.
That's a good thing to always do. Now, whichever direction the majority goes, I automatically put up my brakes, because they're never right. The majority is never right.
Very
often. The direction that the media is trying to take you is never right. I mean, that's obvious to me. I mean, like when this Corona nonsense started, once you already have that ability, you can see through the nonsense day one.
Yeah, how many flat earthers bought the Controlla virus, the stupid 19? I bet not very many.
A few of them, unfortunately. I got mad at some of them, but
oh, really?
Yeah, I could name.
Dave has an interesting theory that I don't know if you've heard him state this. I think it's relatively new, and I'm not talking about he thinks that clouds are souls. That was a great one. He was on. We talked about that. Very interesting. And we know that is not representative of the flat Earth community. That's just Dave's little thought. But Dave said that he is pretty well convinced that because of the momentum that the flat Earth community was generating, and because there's a lot of people starting to look at it very seriously, he thinks that the creation of COVID might be at least in part, a distraction to get people from studying and looking at the data of the flat Earth group.
No, I agree with that. I've actually shared that conversation before with David as well.
Okay.
That I was actually drew up a parody that we never did, but the people were actually blaming flat earthers for Corona.
That's funny. That is funny. There's another theory, and Dave's probably going to roll his eyes when I mention it, but we mentioned, because you mentioned, I don't know, is it super big? We can't tell that it's we can't see any curvature. Have you come across the guy that's making the videos that talks about we're in a crater and the moon is a mirror, and we're actually, our whole realm is within one crater on the moon, and he kind of lines everything up, and that's why we think it's flat, because it does look flat, because it's like just super ginormous.
Well, I'm not against crazy theories, because I've learned that sometimes there's more substance than at first glance.
Right.
But can I test it? Can I go out there and figure it out for myself, or do I just have to rely on the word or the theory of somebody else? that's the difference for me. Is flat Earth is based on observation and testing that anybody can perform. I mean, anybody can go up an airplane and see that it's not flat. Anybody can grab by a high zoom camera now. You can even do it. I mean, I have a video with a cell phone image across Lake Michigan that was 60 miles.
This cell phone that I have been, this particular model has a 100 times zoom lens on it. This would be very, very effective.
Yeah, I would like
just a cell phone.
Go out everywhere. Just keep.
Dave said that our optics have outgrown their lies or overpowered their lies.
Yeah, that's why I think the P900 is to blame partially for flat Earth, and so is YouTube, because this was the first time where we actually had a grassroots movement where people could post what they filmed and what they experimented, what they tested, and then share it, and then somebody could improve on it or do it in a different way or criticize it or whatever. But this is the first time that there's actually ever been a scientific grassroots movement ever. Everything in history has been top down.
You know, as an attorney, you're obviously a very logical thinker. You're someone that looks at evidence. You're someone that looks at precedents. Obviously must have a very disciplined mind to, you know, go to law school and graduate and pass the boards and all of that. Do you see, if you can step back and be maybe more objective than you want to be for a second, do you see any dangers, worries, fears, things that people should be careful, quote unquote, about that could come along with believing in a flat Earth model?
Well, almost similar to what I was saying before is stick with what you can test. You know,
so good.
People want to say that like for instance, his name's Lord Stephen Christ or something like that. He says we live on a concave Earth. I'm not against that idea.
What does that mean, Ben? A concave Earth?
Well, it's the opposite of a spherical Earth, except we're inside the sphere.
Oh. But it would still
and I'm not against that. If you can prove it to me, if I can go out there with my camera, go out there with a radar device, go out there with sonar, do something to prove that. But there's nothing like that. It's all relying on words and on some guy who claims to be that he's Jesus. I mean,
yeah, that's a little.
So follow
that strains credulity just a bit.
Follow your logic. Follow your reason. Study out both sides of the argument and follow the evidence. I mean, to me, that's what you need to do with flat Earth, and that's how we can avoid some of the mistakes that are made. And I've made a few mistakes too. I'll admit that. But it's by that process of us going through and trying to be as objective as possible and following the evidence. That's where we should be, and that way we can avoid the craziness.
I made a little joke this afternoon with I just forgot who that I was with this afternoon, but at any rate, I was thinking about flat Earth, and we were talking about Jesus. And I mean, think about it. We know that water's flat, and if it's a flat Earth, it was a lot easier for Jesus to walk on the water. He didn't have to hike uphill at all. It was just very flat. He's wearing sandals. You don't want to do a bunch of hiking, so it works out. And Billy Zig is who we were with this afternoon, and it was really nice to have Billy. Great to have you here as well. What about some of the great or classic proofs against flat Earth? You know, again, as an attorney, looking at evidence, weighing evidence, are there any out there that stopped you from it and made you go, and have you weighed them all with a legal mind and still are comfortably where you are?
Of course, I have looked at all their evidences, everything that they have. I mean, the first one, of course, the quickest one was what about the lunar eclipse? And I covered that in my video, but actually the lunar eclipse doesn't support the globe model at all. There is the selenelian. Their explanation of how the selenelian works is through this refraction idea of an Earth that's not actually in between of us. It brings up the sun and the moon at the same time, and somehow the shadow of the Earth still comes up and hops. I mean, that's just absolute nonsense. And that's one thing I've learned is how to smell the nonsense right away. That's the reddish hue of the lunar eclipse. You can't produce that on Earth. That's not a shadow. Comes from the wrong directions. There's so many things, but that was the first one where it's like, and you start going through it and you start thinking about it and you go, well, you know, I mean, that's a valid point, but you start looking in more and more into it and you start realizing that that's not really a strength of theirs. The another one was maybe the Antarctic 24-hour sun. Now, is it possible that there is a 24-hour Antarctic sun midnight sun there in Antarctica. Yes, I say it's possible. Does it prove the globe? Well, I would say it's evidence in favor of the globe, but it could also work on a flat Earth. But maybe the sun and how light don't work the way we think they do. But then you start looking at the evidence, and it was like, wait a second, they faked that footage. I mean, you can see it. You can see the CGI. You can see, like, on the, I've shared other ones where they loop the footage, things like that, where you're like, wait a second, there's a problem here. Jeranism did a video where they're showing they have cameras out there doing time lapses, and they cut 8 hours every day. Why would they do that? It starts seeing a train of problems where you're like, I'm not sure that they're telling the truth about that. And then that's when I really jumped into the Antarctic Treaty. I don't know if you've watched that video of mine, but they created this Antarctic Treaty system and the enforcement protocols that prevent any independent travel below the 60th south parallel. Well, that's pretty coinkydink, I mean, seriously, the one place that we could go to do the testing to prove, curvature, Earth, globe, or flat, that we can't go below the 60th south parallel. There's a problem with that. You don't do that. Governments don't all join together, including the Soviet Union, Russia, China, North Korea is a signatory of the Antarctic Treaty. Nobody joins all together to prevent people from going to Antarctica without a reason.
And never violates it.
No. And so now I'm a high skeptic of the alleged 24-hour Antarctic sun, but I'm still willing to hear it. But you think about the other evidence. Well, I could see an International Space Station up in the sky.
And somebody asked about the seasons too. Put that on your list, please, to talk about.
Yeah, you can look up and you can see the International Space Station. Is that proof that we live on a globe? I say, yeah, it's some proof, but just because I see a light in the sky does not prove that people are living in it. Especially when you start looking into all the fake footage. And yeah, in all honesty, you don't even have to get past the hair. I mean, when their hair, they look like Bride of Frankenstein, and they move and it goes with them. There's no flowing. There's no movement. They absolutely permed their hair to look like they were.
And it's like the size of a 747, they tell us.
Yeah.
And you can see it with a naked eye from Earth.
Problems. It's supposed to be reflecting sunlight. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't buy that.
Why doesn't, again, you're an attorney, you're a professional. Why doesn't NASA just solve the whole problem? They got all of these craft up there. They got all these satellites, quote unquote, allegedly. They've got all of this hardware up there. Why don't they just take a unretouched photo of the ball Earth and post it on their website? End of discussion.
Yeah, that was one of those things where you're like, well, what about the pictures of Earth from space? And then all of a sudden you look into that, you read about Robert Simon, and he said, well, we faked that 2012 photo of the Earth. I pasted the clouds and we took a flat map wrapped around the ball, and then I made it look like what people expect the Earth to look like. That's what the NASA said. I mean, for crying out loud, they faked it. Everybody thought it was real, and people still put that on their wall, thinking that that's a real picture of the Earth. It's not. It's fake. And so if they can fake that with a careful artistry, they can fake anything, especially with the software they have now. And that's where you get that Himawari satellite that's supposed to be taking pictures, like you said, all the time of the Earth. And it's obvious that they're just imposing radar software, and they're just wrapping it around a ball. And they add the Terminator line to make it look more real. But what's missing? 16,000 alleged satellites that are supposed to be zipping all around the Earth. None of that's visible. Or when they put the car up in space. I mean, how ridiculous was that? Again, 16,000 satellites are supposed to be up there with it. Where are they? It's obvious that they're faking this stuff. And that's when you see that they're faking all of that. That's when you say, wait a second, they wouldn't fake it if it didn't exist. So, but
Ben, how come? What do you think? And this is just a complete, maybe curveball left field, but it just came to my mind. We're giving NASA a lot of money. What are they doing with it?
Yeah, CGI pictures.
I mean, seriously, what do you think? Where do you think all that money's going? That's supposedly going to NASA. $60
million a day. I mean, that is a lot of money.
It's a great way to launder some money. It's a great way to fund some black book projects.
Now, what NASA, I mean, if you think about it, if it was real, they'd be putting out so many things that they'd be blowing us away with. I mean, in all honesty, if space were real, if space travel was real, they would blow us away with so much overwhelming evidence that cannot be faked that there's just no way we could even question it. But the fact is,
I agree.
It is fake. Everything they do is fake. You can see it. You can see the fakery all the time. I mean, ISS, there's nobody living in that. I mean, for instance, with respect to the ISS, do you know that there is not a single picture of the ISS assembled on Earth?
Wow. Well, maybe it's like the Starship Enterprise. They assembled it in orbit. Exactly.
That's what they say. But you think about all of this. I mean, you're sending something up there. It's supposed to last, what now, 20 years. It needs to be stress test. You need to test all the seals. You need to test those things 1,000 times. There have been fleets of engineers going in it through a fine-tooth comb, looking at every seal, looking at every bolt, looking at everything. They did not do that. They didn't even put it together. They say, "Oh, we'll just throw it together in space." They bring up a box. It sits there, zips around at 17,000 miles per hour.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong there? You know, and then, I mean, they had a meteorite supposedly busted through the ISS and they stuck their finger in it to plug it. I mean, absolute nonsense. And I mean, it's all actually pretty funny.
And I mean, have you seen the one of the ladies showing us how she washes her hair in space?
Oh,
there's
horrible.
Water flying all over the ISS.
Would that ever happen? Never.
I'm sure there's no sensitive electronic equipment, no sensitive electrical.
There's a video where they're pointing out all the power supplies right next to her while she's doing that.
It makes perfect sense. I don't know why people don't believe it. I mean, Star Trek in '68 was doing better stuff than they try to sell to us. Oh, I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
Oh, what I don't understand is why can't people be skeptical? I mean, come on.
About everything. Be skeptical about everything.
There are a lot of hired propagandists, and we expect them to hire. I mean, they make $60 million a day. Why can't they throw $1 million a day towards propaganda? I mean, why not? So there's a lot of hired propagandists out there that calls names and all that. And that's something that's frustrating for me, is like, especially when I was really looking into this and you started seeing them lie and deceive you. And you're trying to talk with people and you're like, I want to actually talk to an honest, smart globe believer who has an open mind. I actually want to converse with them and go over things and have an intelligent conversation with them, but they don't exist. They're all liars. And we tried to get, I was doing a radio show back when I became a flat earther, and we tried to get an astronomy professor to come on the radio and answer questions about the flat earth. Refused to do it. And it was like, there's just something wrong with people. I mean, we need to be skeptical. We should always encourage skepticism. That should, I mean, especially with respect to the sciences, that should be the mantra. Skepticism, healthy skepticism. We need it because you never know when your premises might need to be changed.
Absolutely, 100%. That's what we have to have that mind of inquiry, and we have to be willing to follow that proverbial white rabbit wherever it goes. But even within the quote unquote truther community, we obviously have some places that we cut that rabbit off from. I think it's very, very sad. Have you ever been to one of these flat earth conventions?
Yeah, the video you saw was the flat earth convention in Romania that I spoke at.
In Romania?
Yeah. So
wow.
They flew me down to Romania to speak there. That was fun. And then I did the one in Dallas. I spoke there as well.
How many people were at those conventions? I should have gone to that one. I'm not too far from Dallas. I was going to go, but then I did.
Oh, you should have gone.
I wasn't really a flat earther then. I didn't want to be seen with you guys.
I get that.
But what is it like at a flat earth convention?
It was actually
a bunch of pinhead nerds with pocket protectors and stuff.
Well, you know, there are those pinhead nerds. I would consider myself one.
Now, are there any hot chicks at a flat earth convention?
Unfortunately, I'm married, so I keep my eyes, single to my wife.
Perfect.
But there are very beautiful flat earthers out there.
Excellent.
What I enjoyed the most, of course, I like doing presentations and things, but what I enjoyed the most was the camaraderie, to actually meet these people that I've spoken to dozens of times on the internet, to actually meet them in person and to hug them. And that felt so wonderful, because you realize when you're meeting with these hundreds of people, you're like, wow, something, I'm not alone. You know, other people can open their eyes too. And it felt wonderful. That's why I say, go to it. You don't even have to learn anything other than go there and just meet people that it's amazing. It's amazing to actually meet people that actually agree with you, because you know as well as I do that out in the world out there that not many people will agree with you, and it's a little frustrating.
I mean, it's crazy enough to find some people that are within the whole conspiratorium, within the quote unquote truther community, but then you're subdivided down into the flat earth community, a subsection, and then you start really the pool starts getting shallower and shallower and shallower. It's just amazing. But yeah, I kick myself for not going down to that one in Dallas. I should have been there. But hey, what do you do? Maybe next time. Are you going to that one, the Flattoberfest?
No, I'm not. I can't afford to go always traveling all around for these things.
Yeah, you can.
I was actually thinking of starting my own Flat Earth conference, though.
Hey, that's a great idea.
But I was going to do the first online.
That's a great idea too.
Free to everybody.
Well, so, that's a great price.
Just everyone, I just ask everyone to try to donate videos. And then we just have a day where we just put videos out for people who want to present. I just thought it'd be kind of a fun way of doing it, because who wants to travel right now, especially when you tell you to wear a mask or go,
Yeah, that's what if I'm going, I'm driving. I'm not getting on the airplane. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, I'm actually supposed to speak this in 2 weeks for the Czechoslovakia Flat Earth Conference. I'm not going to Czechoslovakia. I'm just going to do it online, but I've been invited to speak for that conference.
That's amazing. That's great stuff.
Oh, it's growing everywhere. And a lot of, especially like Brazil, I think they said something like 50% of the people believe it's flat earth.
Celebrities too. What do you make of that?
Well, I don't know.
Well, Kyrie, the basketball player, right?
Who? Oh, Kylie, the Irving guy. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't watch much sports, but if it helps people to have a celebrity become a flat earth, and so be it. I'm not against that. Yeah. It's just, again, I don't think we should ever appoint people to be our representatives, because once you do that, they can be bought off. They can be tricked. They get, things like that. You can follow the evidence, stick with the evidence, stick with the simplicity of the flat earth. That's my firm belief. I mean, the evidence is there. There is no curvature. You can measure it in many ways. Lasers. You can go out with radar. You can do it in so many different ways. There is no curvature there. That's a big problem for the heliocentric model. And that alone outweighs any sort of evidence that they think they have by far.
Absolutely. When they tell you here's a formula that proves it, and that formula doesn't work, that's some pretty strong evidence. I know we're not going to talk about the Bible tonight because we're not on the same page with that. But would you agree with the statement that I make that you don't have to have the Bible to prove flat earth?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I'm not like what you would call a Bible thumping fundamentalist or anything like that. And I respect anyone's alternate decisions with respect to spirituality. I mean, I'll be honest. I've been through many different paths. I was agnostic for many years, atheistic. I started getting into Darwin's books and things, and the God delusion, stuff like that. I was really into that stuff. I was slowly started opening my eyes to the evidence of our Creator. But I understand that people are on their own journey, their own path to trying to figure this out. And I'm just doing the best I can with figuring it out as well. But the Bible, I've actually made a video about showing all the verses of the Bible to support what we call a flat and stationary earth. And they're definitely there. So if you believe in a literal Bible, then you have to have problems with heliocentrism. Otherwise, you're lying to yourself. But is flat earth, can you become a flat earther without actually even reading the Bible? Absolutely. Because, I don't know, it's a scientific movement.
It is, absolutely.
And a spiritual one. So whatever spiritual proclivities that you have, that's fine. I have my own. And but I'm the type of person, I like to hear other people's ideas. I like to hear because it's only with that exchange of ideas through kind of, not so much debate, but friendly debate, an investigation in spirituality, that we can maybe figure out what's the true spirituality system out there. So, and there's my girl in the background. I actually have 5 children. So,
oh, good for you. That's excellent. That's excellent. That's fantastic. You know, it's been a great discussion. It really has. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to bring up and share with
you asked about
audience?
the 4 seasons. What was that?
Yeah, somebody said, please discuss the seasons. How can the seasons happen on a flat Earth?
Well, first of all, do they know why we have seasons supposedly under the heliocentric model? It's because of the angle, the tilt of the Earth of a sun that's 93 million miles away. That tilt of the Earth somehow changes that drastically because you're slightly tilted away, and then in the winter you're tilted the other hemisphere's pointed a little closer. I mean, that itself is nonsense. Yeah. I mean, you just look at it objectively and go, wait a second, that doesn't work. I don't buy that. I don't buy that the sun's actually closer in the winter time in the north than it is in the northern winter versus the southern winter. But how's it work on a flat Earth? It seems kind of simple to me. It's just the sun is moving its path and its warmth. And again, I don't think we should be linking the two together. We don't know if the sun is actually producing the warmth. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But
that's a fascinating thought right there. So
if the sun's circling closer to the center, yeah, you're going to have more warmth towards the middle of the flat Earth, and when it changes its direction, moves towards the outer perimeter, you're going to have more warmth towards the outer perimeter. But sorry,
we can't even hear them. Don't worry.
But to me, it's we don't know how it all works. And to me, and this is something that has bothered me about our current generation, is that we're like this Google generation, this Wikipedia generation, that we think that we can have an answer to anything. Like, you can click on there, what is the weight of a teaspoon of a neutron star? They have no clue, absolutely no clue. And to even claim they know is absolutely stupid, just stupid that anyone even say that they know. But this idea that you can just click up and you know anything just by a quick answer, go, oh, I know the answer to that. I can Google it, and look, here's a page right here that says this is the answer. No, I don't think so. I think what God has created for us is so complex, so difficult to understand, that we can maybe scratch at the surface a little bit. I'm not saying we shouldn't be scratching. We should definitely be scratching. But when we scratch, we might be like an ant trying to figure out how a Boeing 747 works. It just might be so complex that it's above us, that we can't figure out how do all the seasons work? I don't know it precisely. I don't even know if the sun's an object. For all I know, it could be a projection of light, and somehow the warmth follows with it. I don't know. Do you know, other than based on your own propaganda of seeing this big ball of fire in the sky in NASA videos? I mean, we don't know those things. And I think we need to embrace the fact that, yeah, I don't know that. Does that mean it's incorrect? No, it doesn't mean that. Just because we don't know something doesn't, just because I don't know, I don't have a perfect map of the flat Earth, does not mean the flat Earth is incorrect. It's because I don't have a $100 million to hire yachtsmen and cartographers to go all around and make a perfect map of the flat Earth. I can't afford that, and nobody in the movement can. So just because we don't know does not mean it's incorrect, and we should continue to investigate. That's at least what I believe in.
Absolutely. I think if we just can, whatever conclusions we make, if we'd be willing to objectively and empirically evaluate all the data, and if we won't reject any data, be an open-minded person, be a thinking person, and be a person that thinks for themselves. And when you say I'm a this and I'm a that, know why you're a this and know why you're a that, and be able to give empirical data for it. Not so much for everybody else, but just so much more that you'll know, that you know, and you'll know why you know. It's just that simple. It's called unindoctrinate yourself, and that's really what we're trying to do. And I appreciate you being here tonight, Ben. I really do. Tell people where, again, your channel, and if you have a website or anything like that.
Well, I used to have a website, tabooconspiracy.com, but they kept charging me hundreds of dollars to keep that website up, and I wasn't selling anything. finally is like, my wife's like, we shouldn't have that going anymore. I might bring it back up. I don't know. But Taboo Conspiracy II is my channel name. Just type it in and you'll get a whole bunch of anti-taboo conspiracy videos. So I don't even know how you find me anymore, because you put in my name and you'll get like 10 videos against me calling me stupid or whatever. And
but if you go to YouTube itself and then type in there Taboo Conspiracy little I channel, it'll come up pretty easily.
Oh, okay. And look for the lunar lander as my logo, because to me that was my path of like, oh my heavens, when I first saw the picture of that lunar lander, it was like impossible. I don't care what stupid argument they have. That thing did not go to space. Sorry.
Excellent. It's been a great discussion. I really appreciate you taking time. I know you got a big family, and we appreciate you for that, and we appreciate your work, in the professional services, helping people out. And I really appreciate you taking your time to come and share your journey with us. And I think you've made, that video that you made, our Flat Earth journey, I think that's just about as good as it gets.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, Jeffrey.
Well, we really appreciate that, Ben. For everybody that's in the chat room, I really think this is the most high-minded chat room on YouTube. Lots of love to all of our moderators, for the lovely Cynthia who helps make this thing go. He is Ben from Taboo Conspiracy. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower. And you got mail, folks. We appreciate you being with us here. And we'll be back tomorrow with more podcast excellence. Thanks so much for being here, Ben. We really appreciate you.
Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening.